Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Living Astrology with Janet Hickox. Grab your cup of coffee or your tea, sit back, and let's chat about what is happening up in the stars today. Sorry, I was a little bit late here this morning. It is a morning that is just not going the way that I usually plan on mornings going. It's interesting because today I am sitting in a new chair, which already feels disconcerting. And on top of that, it's higher than my usual chair, which means that I had to mess around with my my desk so that everything would fit according to what it's supposed to be. And I feel weird. So I just feel weird. Not that it's a bad thing. It was funny because I was telling my husband this morning, I go, it's amazing to me how resistant I can be to change because he wanted to bring this chair home for me because I made this other one is just old. It's getting, not comfortable to sit in. And he said, well, I found one at work. It would be perfect for you. I'll bring it home tonight. And immediately I was like, no, I don't want a new chair. But I let him bring it home. And then he didn't get home until 8:30 last night. So we're messing around with this chair at 8:30. I realize it's going to be way too high. So I'm going to, anyway. So this morning, then I had to deal with that on top of trying to get my day ready. So it was funny, just funny. For a Gemini, sometimes I can be so resistant to changing what is around me. So today we have some really fun things to talk about. The moon is in Pisces. How about that full moon last night? Did you guys wake up and see it in the sky? When I went to bed, it was bright and sunshiny. It was bright and moonshiny right outside my bedroom window here. It almost looked like my neighbor had their outdoor lights on. But of course, it wasn't that at all. It was just that beautiful bright moon. And it felt really good to be able to connect with that moon energy. And I fell dead asleep, didn't worry about the light in my room at all, just fell asleep. So we still have today the moon in Pisces. So we're in the afterglow, if you will, of the full moon. And the full moon is always that time of releasing and purging, letting go of, trusting and completely surrendering to the power of the universe, to the direction that the universe might be pushing you into. And I'm just wondering how all of you did with that, right? It's interesting to talk about those things often afterwards. And today the moon is still in Pisces. It will be in Pisces all day, and it will be coming into a sextile with Jupiter, a conjunction to Neptune, and a sextile to Pluto. So we have what is typically speaking planets that are going to create a nice, good sort of flowing mood for us today through the moon. And we're going to talk about the specifics of those three things here in just a few moments. We also have two sort of major transits or aspects occurring today in the other planets, the other inner planets, Venus coming into an opposition with Saturn, which tends to bring down the lightness of the day, making it a little bit heavier, calling on us to be a little more patient, and we may feel more reserved than usual, less bubbly, but we'll talk a little bit more about what that means. And then also the sun today in a trine to Uranus. That one to me is kind of a mixed bag. Some of you may greet that with absolute wonder and awe and magic. Others of you might go, oh no, right, I got to change something. That's kind of me this morning. Then our Pleiadian-Earth energy of the day is 8 choosing. So we'll get to talk about the heart-to-heart connection of the day through that calendar. And today is Wednesday. That means we are going into our next astro lesson, as it were. Today we're going to take up the second house in the astrology chart and what it means for you in your particular personality makeup through the astrology. All right, let me take a quick peek over here in YouTube and see how everybody's doing here this morning. Good morning, Camilla and J-Lo. Leslie, good to see you. And she said it's raining there in Pennsylvania. It's just dark here. I realized in the mornings now it's getting dark. So you know that summer is passing, right? We were just a couple weeks away from the fall equinox here for the Northern Hemisphere. So that means darker mornings. Asa, hello there, my friend. Mimi, good morning. And Augustina, good morning. Kimberly Eberhardt, good morning. Pauline, good to see you. Finally found the live show. Not your fault, Pauline. I was a little late getting here this morning. It was about 3 minutes after 8, and I had just sat down, and I'm like, oh my God, Asa's already going, where are you? It was a late morning. Couldn't help myself. Andy girl, nice to see you. JLo says, I never went to bed until 5 a.m. and it had gotten very cloudy here in New York. Pauline says it's cloudy in New York. She's also there. Alisa, good morning. And Pauline is in Flushing, Queens, and JLo's in Brooklyn. And Valerie Jocelyn, good morning. And Amy Energy, good morning. So we have the whole gang, so it seems, here this morning. So anybody else that's listening to us from behind the scenes, good morning to you as well. So let's launch into the energy of the day. That is what we talk about as far as the moon is concerned. And today, again, the moon is in Pisces. So we're still dealing with the imaginative, the dreamy, the fantastical, the more spiritual, the more compassionate, loving, healing energy, but also maybe dealing a little bit with the victim energy. I kind of felt that this morning. That just like a field of energy of that victimish sort of field that is still upon us. Today, the first aspect that the moon will make is to a sextile to Jupiter. Now, typically when we think of Jupiter, we're thinking of the largest, right? The big expansion energies, growth, and the feel-good generosity, magnanimity, holy moly, and also the energies of going too far, too fast, that kind of thing, right? Jupiter's large and in charge. But today, Jupiter and the moon remind us that it's the little things that count the most, right? It's the feeling of your favorite sweatshirt. It's the kiss on the cheek from your grandchild or your child. It is those little tiny things, the smell of coffee brewing, just the fact that you have 2 feet and you could get up this morning, and the deep breath that we can take to inhale the morning air. It's those things that we need to be most appreciative of. It's easy to get, into the large things. Thank you for my relationship. Thank you for my car, my house, my whatever, my job. But it's those little teeny things, right, that make up the day. A drink of cool water, those kinds of things that we need to be appreciative today of. The smallest kindness. Whoa, I forgot to plug in my computer. Oh dear. Here we go. Did it? Got it before it died. Oh my gosh, I'm telling you, this morning it feels like I'm just out of sync with life. But I'm very appreciative for the fact that as soon as I saw my screen dim, I knew it was, oh no, didn't plug it in. Gotta go do that. So those little things, they're the ones that matter most to us. Gratitude for everything today, everything, all the little things. It's all the small things that make up the grandest of our days in our lives. Also today, the moon will come into the conjunction with Neptune that we spoke about yesterday. As we were approaching the full moon, we knew, of course, what's in Pisces is Neptune. So in Neptune conjunction with the moon, there's a dreaminess to the day, kind of unclarity to the day, where it's sort of the energy of that tiredness, that lethargy, the escapist part of ourselves that just wants to curl up in bed and stay there, or get a good book, or, just go off and do whatever, taking a hike, walking through the forest or through the beaches, just doing something different. Today's a day that the moon and Neptune favor imagination and the fantastical, spiritual pursuits, as well as anything not of the concrete sequential type. So the abstract, so meditation, even a good thing for today, contemplation, reading a spiritual book, being uplifted by spirit today. Then later in the day, we also have a sextile of the moon to Pluto. So there's where things get a little more serious, but this one is a sextile, which is a 60-degree relationship between the two planets, the moon and Pluto, which means this is a way for us to find win-wins in our lives. When, Pluto is a power broker, he's a power planet, and everything about him exudes power and the ideas of being in control of your life, and even being able to manage going into the depths to bring out the things that have been creating a sense of not power in your life. But when he is in a sextile to the moon, it tends to bring out the win-win, right? What can we do that even in the deep dive, what can we bring back that really is creating a win-win for us and not a losing proposition where we're, dying on the vine or getting so caught up in competition and conflict with other people in our lives that we can't really see our own self-worth and our own beauty. So don't get caught up with that today. Really see, if you are in some kind of a conflict or you are having some kind of serious thing going on in your life, make sure that you don't have competition and conflict or negative emotions behind it, because if you do, that's what's going to get exposed. And sometimes that gets exposed in a way that's not necessarily comfortable. So being very calm and cool and collected and working hard behind the scenes to make sure your own energy is clear, then you get to watch for the rewards of having done that deeper work. So today, really, all in all, from the moon isn't creating any real tension. It isn't creating any real negative energy. In fact, I think it really is opening up pathways for us that bring us into some more positive expressions, especially, the conjunction of the moon to Neptune, to me, is often a reason not to go out into the world and make big decisions, right? That conjunction can just really muck up our emotions, we're not seeing clearly, we're not thinking clearly, we forget minor things like plugging in the computer before you're going on a live video. So today, since we're not necessarily thinking clearly, it might be a better day to just do something else, do some of the more meditative work or something like that. That's the only thing that I can say that might be negative, is that we're so not clear. We're in the fog. Yesterday, I was totally in that fog. I could feel that full moon coming. And it was almost like when it happened, I was still up last night at 10:37 or 10:33, when something like 10:23 when it occurred. So I was there when my phone notified me that it was the full moon. And it was almost like just before that notification, I felt this shift and like something had just blown over. It was interesting. So that the day overall from the moon should be fairly good. Let me take a look and see if people have questions about the moon in their charts. Sylvester Miller, good morning. Jennifer Peachy, good morning. And Asa, Andy Girl 1111, aha, so it would have been 8:11 my time. And Pauline says, damn, never had free natal chart. I think only sidereal natal. Guessing yours is tropical. Yes, it is. I use the tropical zodiac. I got to tell you guys something. I'm really getting sort of interested in doing charts from the whole sign system. I've always used Placidus, and it served me well. So don't get me wrong, it serves me well. And there's nothing wrong with that particular system, but I'm really noticing more and more how much it would mean to know exactly what's going on in a sign and the house that it's relegated to. So, for example, if you have a Cancer rising moving, even if it's like mine is at 26 degrees of Cancer, moving 0 degrees to the ascendant, and then all of Cancer falls into that first house. I'm really kind of liking that way of working astrology. And today, as we're talking about houses, it might be an interesting exercise for you all to look at what your chart might look like in whole sign, as opposed to, or whole house, whole sign, instead of the Placidus one, which is what I generally would have sent out to you. You would have likely gotten a Placidus rather than a whole sign chart. So we'll see how that plays out for everybody. Leslie, Andy says, at Leslie, I think it's somewhere in the Google account settings. I'm not sure what you're looking for. Oh, how do I get my picture here? Okay, so Laura Hammer, good morning. She says, late, but here. Well, we're glad to have you. Amy Energy, the moon is crossing my Venus and sun in the 7th. Meanwhile, the sun is on top of my ascendant. Well, somehow you must be going through some changes. I think you indicated that to us the other day. And I think this would be a really good time for you, Amy, to really get clarity about what do you see in the reflection of the mirror from your relationships. And then also, what does that mean about where you want to go and who do you want to be? How do you want to show up? That's really kind of the fun part about anything crossing the ascendant. It gives you that opportunity to really question that. In fact, Venus is crossing my ascendant, conjunct my ascendant today, crossing into my first house throughout the day today as well. Pauline, sidereal is so much more accurate for me, though tropical too. Sidereal, I don't know anything about sidereal. I just never learned that system. I have no desire at this moment in time. That doesn't mean I won't later to take up another type of astrology. But interestingly enough, Pauline, I did hear a talk one time by a guy who uses sidereal charts, and it was amazing. He sent me my own chart, and the conversation that he and I had about it was pretty accurate. So I would say it is an interesting, idea that different types of astrology are basically saying the same thing. It's really just about how it is that you are open to receiving that information, and from your own personal filters, what you feel is working best for you or not. Camilla, the moon is on my Mars and true node because in house 11 in my natal chart. What does that mean? So Mars and the true node means you're likely often in a position of trying to take action on things, on your dreams, on your visions, on your vision for what it is that you want to do. Now, the moon coming there may put some emotion to it. That means that you may be getting frustrated. Maybe you're trying to move forward and you're not able to, or maybe it's the opposite. You're feeling very productive and very good about what's going on in your life. Either way you look at it, though, right now might be a good time for you, Camilla, to take a look at what is the dream. What are your goals and your hopes and your aspirations? And are they in alignment with your values? And here's even another fun thing. Are you actually working toward those goals, or are you just paying lip service to those goals? So the moon today may be triggering that up for you. All right, so I hope that helps. Right now, let's go on to talk about the two major transits for the day. One is Venus opposing Saturn. So that tells you that Venus is, well, first of all, Venus rules love, finances, and our values, right? And sort of the relationships that we have with those things in our lives. And then Saturn rules limits and boundaries and our duties and responsibilities. So you can see like one is the feely goods and the other is the more stern, taciturn, I've got to do this kind of energy. They're opposing one another. So we're having these two energies pulling in opposite directions. So today we may feel a bit limited by either our finances, our workload, the amount of duties or responsibilities that we have to take care of. Before we can get to what we want to do, the fun stuff, we got to get through the work that we got to do, or the responsibilities that we have. So today's a day to patiently work through whatever it is that life has thrown out at you today. Not to be in such a state of yearning to get free of the work that you miss the jewel of actually doing the work, right? So being patient with yourself, being patient when the universe tosses out that block, that limit, or that resistance, and asking yourself, what is this slowing, how does slowing down serve me, right? How does slowing down serve me? If you look at things in that way, it's not that you're being pooped on by the universe or that the world is stopping you all the time. It's that you have this opportunity to stop and ask that question. How is this serving me? What am I missing in the bigger picture that this slowdown helps me to see, right? So again, if you're experiencing any kind of restriction today in love or finances or in your values, it may be something that you need to wait for, right? There may be some need to wait for the next best thing to happen. So that is Venus opposing Saturn. Wherever it is in your chart in opposition, those are the houses that will be affected by that. So for example, Amy, I'm wondering, is Venus in your first house? I can't remember your rising sign. So for example, in my chart, I have Venus right now transiting through Cancer on my ascendant, and the opposite sign of that is Saturn in my Saturn return, because my natal Saturn is also there. So what have I been working on? A lot about not so much the money aspect. That sort of just went out of the window. I don't care so much about that as much as I care about the value of the information that I'm giving out to people. And it's interesting to note that as Asa has come in and become my apprentice, and she's working to get me exposure on Instagram, that I'm becoming very aware suddenly of how all of these things play into a holistic view of a career or a focus, right? So if you're going to be in the world doing what I do in particular, you've got to be able to get that information out to people in different ways. So that's what's been playing in my mind. It wasn't about how can I make more money doing what I do. It wasn't that at all. It's more about how can I bring more value to you all who are my listeners and my followers. So it's just an interesting little bit of an upside down here that maybe Venus and Saturn is bringing to all of us in the houses in that we are really that are affected by that particular opposition. Now, today we also have the Sun in a trine to Uranus. I love this. This is about approaching life in new ways, right? Approaching your problems, looking for new solutions, and or approaching your problems in the search for new solutions so that we can solve things in a new way. Because the old ways, have you caught on yet? They're not working. The old way of solving the world's problems, the old way of solving your national problems or your state problems, your community problems, or your personal problems are not working the way they used to, right? You can't just strong arm your way into doing things the way you want to because there's backlash. And so here, this opportunity today is how do we approach the world and our problems in a new way, with an open mind, perhaps with a little bit of humor even. The last things I said to my husband this morning as he was walking down the sidewalk, I said, today is a day to be humorous. And he started laughing at me because he's always joking and he's always cracking jokes, and people just love that he's gotten back to work because he lightens up the day for everybody. So that's what we all need to be today. Lighter, like lighter in weight, right? Lighter, approaching life in a new way, seeing things and outside of the box, right? So we can sometimes get ourselves in these boxes and we can only see, just over the box top, and that limits our view. So we actually have to rise up outside of the box and take a look around at the world and be different, right? Connect with the world in a different way. You got to think outside of the box, and you have to be willing today to take some creative risks. Maybe today's not the day to take big action steps toward that, but be willing. Tell the universe, yes, I know that's scary to me, but I'm willing. You present me with the opportunity and I will take the risk, right? To light up your path to success. Creative risks and humor, always a good thing. Right? Always a good thing with the Sun trine Uranus. This is an ease and flow of the energy of the light in Virgo, where the Sun is residing, right? This is where your practical, down-to-earth expression of creative energy needs to come down to the earth, needs to get expressed. And Uranus and Taurus, also an earth sign, right? The practical expression of these things, highly favored. Not necessarily throwing out the baby with the bathwater to start something new, but being able to just take the next creative step in whatever it is that you're working on in your own life, whether it's a relationship, whether it's a job, whether it's an art project, whether it's finances, health, whatever area of your chart this is happening in. It's time to take that next step, right? Okay, questions, comments about that? Moving back over here. J-Lo, Moon is square Venus and Neptune. Triggers. And also my Mercury is square the ascendant. Sheesh, I must enjoy these. I think it's, we all have our time in the sun, if you will, and we all have our time with Saturn. And some of us are having our time with Saturn, and it is also something that can feel heavy or triggers. I think, the squares, if we didn't have the square energies, we wouldn't grow, right? We wouldn't expand. The trines and the sextiles and those type of transits, or the connection, the relationships between the planets, we love them, right? We love them because it implies a flow, an ease and a grace that comes with those transits. But those very ease and grace and easiness can create a stagnation, right? Because it's just flowing. We don't ever dare to step outside of that flow. So the squares, the oppositions, and some of the other minor tension sort of filled aspects create the resistance, right? The little bit of the fire that we need in order to move, right? To make change, to dare to step outside of those boxes that we put ourselves in. So, you know, today, remember I said with the little sextile to Jupiter, be appreciative of even the smallest things, be appreciative of the squares that the moon are bringing to you, or that Venus is bringing to you, or that Mercury is bringing to you, because it creates that enough resistance to create change, to create growth, and for you to expand. I know they're not always comfortable, but they are definitely necessary, right? What we need in order to grow. So I always think, I don't always think, that's not even true. There are times I'm railing at those squares going, leave me alone. But other times I'm so thankful that it's there, because it will push me just a little bit harder to get to where I want to go, to get to where Spirit has been pushing me to go, right? So thank your lucky squares. Pauline, your bio was so interesting. Hope I had past life as an astrologer, so we'll get it easier, as I recall, than learning for the first time. Yeah, she's talking about my bio. So the oddest thing had happened to me in my life, and I don't know, I often don't share this story. It's a little bit uncomfortable to share this story with people, because it seems to fly in the face of what the world expects, right? That you are trained, that you are certified, and that you have all of those letters after your name, right? And that's not how I came by astrology. I literally remembered it after an experience of a book that seemed to transit all through my house, and then finally was found on my bed, opened up to Chiron in Pisces. And as I looked at that book, I was like, what the heck is Chiron? I'd never even heard of it. And the book that I thought was going to be all about crystals that my son had found at a freebie at a garage sale across the street turned out to be a book about astrology. And it was a watershed moment. It was almost in that moment, the universe just poured down all of the knowledge, or it was all revealed to me. That doesn't mean I haven't done studying since, because I have, right? As I always call it, pulling those threads, where something will come of interest and I follow that thread to that information. And in my human design chart, I have a lot of the sensing circuit. And that is a circuit where there's just pure knowingness. You don't know how you know what you know, you just know. And that is very difficult in the world that we live in to express to people. And it caused me no end of issues in the beginning, because I wouldn't really trust what I was saying. And then people would say things to me like, that was the best reading I ever had. You touched on things that no one's ever touched on. And I'd be like, what? How am I doing that? So there are times in our lives where we don't need to qualify or quantify how it is we know what we know, because a very valid way of receiving information in this lifetime is just pure knowingness, which can be channeling, can be just that antenna on top of the head that just brings in information. But our physical world doesn't often honor that kind of knowing, right? We think you need the book learning, or you need to go to college or go to classes to have all of that. So interesting. So Amy, Virgo rising. Virgo rising, getting to work, girl. So the sun must be in your first house then right now. So everything must be getting back to work, right? Getting back to the nuts and bolts of what it is that you're here to do, and doing it, purifying it, getting it clearer and clearer, very earthy. J-Lo, Saturn is in my first house in Cancer, 13 degrees. I do remember that. And so Venus must be, let's see, where is Venus today? I have this chart here. It's so dark in my room these mornings. I'm going to have to figure out a new lighting scheme, which is going to cost me no end of issues. Today, Venus is at 25 degrees, 55 minutes of Cancer. So she has already crossed over your natal Saturn, J-Lo, and likely struck you with new values, right? New money opportunities, perhaps, or new ways of looking at your finances. J-Lo, OMG, now that you say that, I checked the design date. It would make me an Aquarius soul. Weird, but then again, not weird. I love the way you said that. And Christine says, cool, J-Lo, I love it. Woohoo. It happened to me looking through Ancestry. The lady first blocked her tree, now opened it as the DNA came back. We are distant cousins. Oh my gosh, I love Ancestry. That's like another one of my fun things to do when I have time. All right, so let's go on to our biggest lesson of the day. Hopefully everybody has their chart in front of them. I'm actually going to go back to Zoom for a moment so I can share my screen. Let's see if it'll work without me having to go there first. Nope. Let me do something real quick, and I'm going to share my screen so we have a chart to look at. We're going to pretend it is the chart of somebody, and then maybe we'll take a moment to look at some people's charts if we have some time. There we go. Okay, so everybody should be seeing the chart of the moment. I drew this up. I've got this set for New York time, so I set this at 6:38 my time this morning. And so this was a snapshot of if somebody was born at that moment, right, at 9:38 East Coast time, 6:38 West Coast time. This is a snapshot of what the chart might look like, depending, of course, where they were born in the grand scheme of the world. And this gives us an idea, if this were a person, about what their life might look like. And in reality, we're looking at a Placidus chart. So we have uneven houses. And we see that the beginning of this person's chart would be in the sign of Libra. This is the symbol for Libra. And then the house splits, and part of the house is in Scorpio, part of the house is Libra. So what you get here then in the first house is sort of a split personality, but the actual rising sign really dictates the viewpoint of that person. So I'm just reviewing right now what that first house was all about. Remember, it's about what you look like. It's about your viewpoint. It's about the instinctual you, right? It is the words I am. So whatever I am means to you in this person's chart, this would be a Libra I am. I am about relationships. I am about cooperation. I am about relationships. That is what really is their instinctual self, is about balancing their life, about being harmonious, creating a harmonious life, a beautiful life, right? They may be interested in things like beauty and aesthetics. They may be quite artistic even, or at least have a very keen sense of beauty and harmony and flow. That's because the first house would be the instinctual them, the instinctual I am. Now we get to move today to the second house in the chart. The second house right here, you can just bear the numbers, by the way, for the houses that get lost sometimes in all the different lines of the aspects. So you just count from the ascendant. That to that line is all the first house, and then from this line to the third line here is all of the second house. And it begins in Scorpio. So this person would have a Scorpio second house. So the second house is corresponding in the natural zodiac wheel to the sign of Taurus. So it has a lot to do with our possessions. It has a lot to do with our earning power, our money, and what we value as people. So what we value as an individual. So where the first house is about I am, the second house is about I have, right? It's about what we own. It's about so people, depending on the sign that you have there, are going to be very interested and surround themselves by things that are in alignment with their values, right? So whatever's on that second house is really what is going to be is a reflection of your values. Now, the second house rules finances, and not just money, though. Money is the effect of the psychological attitude that you have toward possessions, toward the energy of possession. What does possession mean to you, right? What does that mean? I mean, various people have various ideas. Some people value real estate and they buy up properties, or they make sure they own a house. Some people value books. So if they have extra money, they're going to buy books. That would be me buying books. So other people value other things. And so whatever you value the most is often what you're willing to put the money out towards. And so the material possessions that you own are linked to this concept of what does it mean for you to possess things, and then money is the effect of those things. I hope that makes sense. If you have questions about that, go ahead and let Asa know that, and she'll text me. And I'm just checking real quick to see. Asa has not sent me any questions. I see you too. Okay, so now when we also look at the value, it is not only what you value, but what values do you reflect, right? So including how you value yourself, your time, your energy, your work, your money. So that comes down to self-worth, self-esteem, right? All of that is caught up in that second house. Now, for those of you who have natal planets in the second house, these are going to show how you seek security in the physical world. So what does it take to make you feel secure? Transiting planets through the second house show you the changes that are happening in your resources, in your values, or in your self-esteem and self-worth, right? The material possessions. What are you buying right now? What do you value right now? What's important to you right now? How do you value your own self? Are you pricing your work accordingly? Are you asking for a living wage? Are you willing, because you're worthy to receive, open to receiving, open to the abundance of the universe? So another way for us to look at the second house here is that what began in the first house at the ascendant with the I am, or the instinctual you, turns into concrete action here, the action steps that you'll take to fill that instinctual self's needs. So here are the concrete things that you will do, the actions that you're willing to take. So the instincts of the first house become the needs in this, needs fulfilled in the second house. And the need might be for housing, for food, for shelter. There are very basic survival needs here, because it's related to Taurus in the natural wheel. When all of the needs are taken care of, when I have a roof over my head, when I have food in my cupboards, when I have money in my bank account, when my bills are paid, everything seems to be flowing differently. Now I can focus on the other things that I want to create in my life. And those needs, those very needs, push us out into the world to get our income, right? To start working, to find a way to make an income. So those needs literally push you into going out to find the job, or in some cases, if there are other indications in a chart, it can show how people that might become criminals are out in the world looking for those needs to be filled, but in a way that isn't according to the way society would consider them. So sometimes if we're looking at charts of people that are in jail, we're not looking at just the 12th house, which is often the end result is now you're in jail. But the second house can be people who might, push the boundaries of how is it that you get your resources, right? Maybe I don't need to do it through a job. Maybe I do it by, gaming the system, or I might, be pushed to go out into the world and become a thief or a burglar or things like that. So we can see those kinds of things, as well as the things where I'm going to go out and get an education because I want to be a doctor. And in order to do that, I need to have those degrees. So we can see that the second house has a lot to do with the psychological need to fulfill your instincts, and how it is that you might go about doing that with the planets that are there and the transiting planets as well. So the second house is the part of your psyche that pushes you to go out to work or to find the things that will fulfill your financial needs or your material needs. So it could be securing material goods. It could be assets, building assets, right? That for real estate, or antiques, or money, or, all the things that we consider valuable, goods, money, real estate, values, all connected here. Real estate is not necessarily a second house thing, only so much as it is an asset that creates the ability for you to have flow in your life, or to create the need, to fulfill the need of housing. So let me check in real quick. How's everybody feeling about that? I'm going to stop sharing my screen here. And no, that didn't work. There we go. So J-Lo says, weird. I actually bought stocks. I know nothing of it, but took a bite as a friend gave a bit of advice. It depends. You know, the action of using money to buy stocks might be a second house deal, but I think ultimately what makes stocks pay off is an eighth house issue, right? Because ultimately it's an investment. So what begins as a funding source from the second house turns out to be a source of passive income, perhaps in the eighth house. So it fulfills that axis, but it might be something a little bit around that eighth house as well as your second house, J-Lo. So Christine says, good luck. Yes, good luck does kind of fall in there too, even though I'm sure you're saying good luck to J-Lo. So with no planets, we look across which one will it be. If you have no planets in your second house, let me look back at that chart. Did it have planets? Let's do that. Let me share the chart again. I just wanted to check and make sure everybody was okay with the explanation of that second house. So if we look at this house or this chart, let's pretend that Selena isn't there, Selene. Actually, Selene in this particular chart sits right on the cusp of that second house. And since Selene is like the white moon, so the black moon shows your shadow self. The white moon shows where it is that you have a lot of talent to be able to share with the world. So where if you focus in on that second house, in this case, because there's Selene here, there's a lot of benefit perhaps from Scorpio pursuits. Scorpio rules the eighth house, so it's possible this person might be an investment counselor or have really good energy around making investments, who sort of reads the market and knows exactly what to buy and when to buy it, and when to use, when it's a bear market, when it's going to be a bull market, and when to buy low, sell high, all of that kind of fun stuff. So if this were a person right now, I would say this person has some really sound or ability to tune in to the wider financial pictures of the world. But for, let's say, our argument's sake and our connection to what J-Lo was bringing up, let's say there's no planets here in this house. And yet there is always something going on. So even if there is nothing in the house, you can go to the ruler of the house to find more information. So the ruler of this particular house is Mars and Pluto. Let's look at Mars first. So now we're going to look at Mars in the birth chart to see how does Mars look. And Mars in this particular chart, if this were a person, is over here in late degrees of Aries in the seventh house. So immediately, my thought immediately jumps to this person is looking for love and stability and financial security in a relationship, but also wants to maintain some of their own autonomy and their own earning power. So they want to be both the contributor financially to an income in a relationship, as well as having a partner who does the same, right? They want to be interconnected and interdependent, not where that partner needs your money or you need that partner's money. Hopefully that makes sense to everybody. That was just a quick read of where Mars is in this natal chart. But we also have to look to Pluto in this natal chart. And we know Pluto right now is in the fourth house. So perhaps this person's investment savvy, because we're kind of looking at that, has to do with fourth house matters, which might be real estate, right? Buying and selling of buildings or properties, land, that kind of thing. So this particular chart, if this were a person, leads me to believe that they have a lot of deep, intuitive ways of fulfilling the needs of the second house, finding material wealth and satisfying those needs, and likely, especially with Jupiter down here very close to Pluto, would have some pretty good luck even in financial affairs. Now, this isn't a chart of a person. This is a chart of right now. right? So it just made me go, wow, if this, this is the chart of the moment, then for all of us, we're likely thinking about these same kinds of things, right? Investments and how do I fulfill my needs, especially in a changing world, right? The changing financial landscape of the world right now, of the US, of the economy, of your own, jobs and things like that. How is all of that changing? And how do we fulfill the need for material satisfaction, right? How do we get that fulfilled? So I hope that makes sense to people. Asa, question, if the second house has two signs, which is more powerful? The first one, right? I'm not even going to look at Sagittarius here because this house begins in Scorpio. Now I'm going to look at it a little bit later. Let's say, for example, if this is a person's chart, there's no planet in the Scorpio part of this chart. I'm looking to the rulers of Scorpio to see a little more information. But what if this person has, say, Jupiter in Sagittarius and still in the second house? So we're not dealing with the rulership anymore, but we're still dealing with the second house. So now I have to look at another layer of what the meaning might be. Jupiter in the second house, especially if it's in Sagittarius, confers luck, fortune, good luck with money, and being in the right place at the right time to buy the right thing or to sell the right thing, or to have that job that really pays well, or that opportunity that really gives you fortune and good luck. So that would be another way that we look at it. I would look at the other sign in a house as just another layer of what might be going on in that chart as it relates to money and how this person would get their needs fulfilled. But we also need to look at the sign that's on the first house, right? Because the first house shows the instinctual self. The instinctual self here is about relationships, about building a relationship, about being in a balanced sort of personality. And then if this instinctual self is about relationships, then it's going to affect the second house needs, which then translates over to why perhaps this Mars is over here in the seventh house, because they would see fulfillment in combining resources, right? It's more than just what I can do, it's what we can do. So relationship is important here. And if this were a person, the relationship that they could build with a person. And I'm not going to go into degrees of houses, Pauline. If you have Leo on your second house, then that would put likely Cancer on your first house, right? The first house cusp is Cancer. So the instinctual you has a need for security, has a need for stability, has a need for protection and feeling that protection around them. The protection then is going to play out in the second house in Leo, in the search for money, right? The search for possessions or things that are going to make you be able to pay your bills and to feel financially secure. And Leo often is that queen or king energy, so that sometimes there's a part of you that may want to sit back and just enjoy having money come to you from other things like investments or grants or loans or from a spouse. But in reality, that Leo is pushing you to move out into the world to earn your own money for your own security, your own protection, and your own stability. So that's how I would read that, not irregardless of the degree. Okay, so now if we, so I'm going to stop sharing. I'm going to take a look at some people's charts. So I'm just going to pull random people's charts. I'm thinking Amy at this point, because did we look at your chart this week? I don't remember. So Asa, give me some people's charts to look at. And that we haven't looked at before or in a while. Oh, I'm looking through. Christine Buckingham. Do I have your chart? Let me see. Let me look over here while I'm waiting for answers from people and see if I happen to have a chart for you, because you're so quiet. That's how you must have an open throat. You're always so quiet. So the quiet ones get chosen. And that's how that open throat works. If you're quiet, people recognize you and try to pull you out. And guess what? I don't have a chart for you, Christine. Too bad. I would have loved to have done that. Let's see who else. And is there any other people there? Asa, that I haven't looked at. Puffing Pixie, second house is ruled by Libra and has Pluto also in her second. What does that mean? So Puffing Pixie, I think your name is Emily. By the way, which one of you, somebody, I can't remember who, somebody sent me a deck of cards. I got them in the mail yesterday. The Angel Guide Oracle by Kyle Gray. And there was no card in there. I know I didn't order them. So somebody had actually asked me for my mailing address. I don't recall who it was now. So whoever it is, thank you very much. We'll be using these cards tomorrow to do some angel card readings. I'm excited to play with them. They actually went to my next door neighbor. So I didn't get them yesterday with my mail. I got them late last night when she came over and said, oh, hey, by the way, these came to my house. And thank you to whoever it was. I just love receiving gifts and I appreciate that. So please let me know who you are though, so I can thank you appropriately. So Emily, I'm going to pull up your chart. What time do I have here? Laura Hammer. Laura, we'll look at yours too. We have 7 minutes. So Emily. Emily K, wasn't it? I think I need to get your real last name, Emily, and you can private message that to me if you don't want everybody to know what your last name is, because it's so much easier for me to find your chart. And so let's look. I want to look at transits too, because maybe there's something transiting the second house. Now, of course, this is going to be more complex. This is a bigger conversation than just what I'm going to do here in these few minutes. But this is Emily K's chart, and we're looking at then a first house that begins in Virgo. And that means her second house begins in Libra. And so what we have in Virgo is a need to have a routine, right? To have things going in a routine way, to have practical, down to earth, sort of hands in the dirt sort of attitudes toward life. And the routines really help that, to help your work life be smooth, right? Then you work best with a routine. Then that will translate into your second house as well. The instinctual self is about routine. So here you might have to build up a relationship with, because Libra, with a financial institution, with a bank or a credit union, and routinely then be depositing money into an account, or to routinely do things that are meant to build wealth, whether it's through 401k, maybe through your work, or in money that you inherit, possibly from family, that is invested appropriately and taken care of, right? You have Pluto here. Did you realize, maybe none of you guys realize this, but Pluto is named Pluto because it's based on the word Plutarch, which meant wealth, or I can't remember the base word in Latin that is about wealth management, wealth generation, or the wealthy. So Plutarch was someone who was wealthy. So Pluto in the second house, and it's very much close to your part of fortune here, Emily. So you're meant to learn about wealth and how to build wealth. So for you, there may be transits that take you into that underworld, right, where there's very little. But if you routinely, and I'm stressing the word routine because what will support you, the instinctual you, is routinely doing something to work on your financial relationship or your relationship to things in your life. Now, I want to look at Venus too, because Venus is the ruler of that second house, because Libra is here. And your natal Venus is where she is in the fourth house of home and family in an earth sign, Capricorn. So again, we have this idea that you have to have financial goals, and you actually have to put out the work to make those goals come true, right? So even if it's only, I can put $5 a week into a savings account, that is what is really going to support you and see that wealth builds. Having a goal that I want to buy a house, and now how do I do that? Well, I might sell some things, and then I'm going to put that money into an account, and I'm going to let it build. So there's some very practicality issues that come to play in your particular chart as it relates to the second house. So Emily, get your plans, dust them off, and start saving or start doing things that really, you can save or you can cut back, right? You can cut back on expenses. But literally you need to build that financial relationship with the financial institutions so that you have the funds to be able to do the things that support you, like buying a house, I see you have the sun down here in the 4th house too. There may be something, what year were you born? 79? Yikes. So you're 40-ish, right? You're turning 41 this December, perhaps. So you're also coming into your Uranus opposition. Uranus is here in Taurus, your natal Uranus at late degrees of Scorpio. So there is the possibility that your life will be changing over here late in the next couple of years. So I think that sounds good. Now I'm also going to look at Laura Hammer's chart. Laura Paskhammer, I think I have it under. Let me see. Oh, shoot. I just realized I did that all without sharing my chart. Let me go back and share that screen really quickly. So Libra, 2nd house, right here. Here's Pluto, 21 degrees, 20 minutes. And the rising sign, late degrees of Virgo with Saturn here. So even more so, Saturn's on the 1st house side. So being serious about your goals and really taking that stepwise progression, Emily, so that you are really laying the template for financial success. And then wealth and fortune will come home naturally because you're doing all the things that you need to do to get there, right? You're staying within boundaries. You have a plan. You're following the plan in a stepwise progression, very concrete, sequential kind of way of going about satisfying those needs. Okay, sorry for not sharing the screen originally. That just irritates me when I do that, but I'm human. All right, so Laura, I'm going to go to find your chart and Paskhammer. Is that right? There you are, Laura. And let's bring your chart up. And then I will share my screen before I start chatting about it. Oh, and Laura, well, I'm going to do something real quick here. So Laura, let me share my screen and let's just do it the way we did with Emily. So Laura has a rising sign and in Cancer, 12 degrees of Cancer, which puts, well, she has, so Laura, I'm going to change your chart right now. I'm going to take it and I'm going to mess it up for you. So just a moment, I'm going to go back to whole signs because your chart has weird shaped houses, right? They have weird sizes. So when that happens, it makes it just I'm learning more and more about how it just sort of skews everything in the chart. So I really want to take a look at the truth of what's going on in your houses. Okay, so now let me share my chart again. Oh no, I never stopped sharing. So hopefully somebody tell me, Asa, am I sharing this chart? Are you guys seeing whole houses chart here? Leslie, you and I are going to chat later. We'll look at your houses then. And Mimi, if I get a chance, I will look at yours. We haven't looked at yours in a while. So what time is it? Oh, it's after 9. Oh, darn. So, okay, quickly here then, Laura, what I've done is changed the houses to be whole houses here, which means that your 12-degree Cancer ascendant is still 12 degrees. That didn't change. But what did change is that at the 9 o'clock position of the chart is now 0 degrees Cancer, which means then we have a more valid 2nd house, Leo. And the Leo on the 2nd house then is how you, like Pauline, are going to go about fulfilling the needs that you have for safety and security and protection and all of the things that the instinctual you needs, the I am you needs to feel like they can proceed in their life in a very productive way. So Leo here, you've got a Leo destiny and you also have Leo Uranus here. So for you, finances are also maybe hidden from you. You have a 24-degree, the ruler of Leo is the sun. So we're looking at the sun in the 12th house. That's hidden. Although here's something really cool for you, Laura. I bet some good news is coming for you financially because the North Node is almost on top of the sun for you, which will trigger some kind of event, a coming out party, if you will, for you, either with a house that, because I think you do real estate, right? So maybe a house selling or money coming in, being released that had been held up. your destiny, your natal destiny in in Leo as well. So your destiny is to learn how to provide for yourself, right? To build that financial stability. And, sometimes I see this in, it might even affect your relationships at times. It's because maybe you were overly dependent on a spouse or a significant other that was supplying your finances or your resources. And with a North Node in Leo, you were meant to be the one that supplies the resources. And that could also have been a source of issue in a relationship. So just think back to your relationship. Were they financial issues that popped up with you feeling like you were carrying too much of the burden of finances? Or was it that the other person was supplying that and somehow controlling your own finances? So take a look at that. Uranus here in the second house also speaks to the up and down nature of financial dealings in your life. And you and I are probably close to the same age. We are, because I also have a North Node Leo. I also have Uranus in Leo in my second house, no less. And it is every job I've ever had was sales or marketing or it being in business for myself, where finances are fluctuating. They're up and they're down. So when things are flush and things are good, I have to plan for the next fluctuation, which is the down part, so that I can go through survival of that low time. So same thing here with you. You are all at once the major earner and learning how to really guard your finances and live large with your finances, and some good news coming in that respect, I think, in the next couple of weeks, months, maybe even. And then also Uranus with that up and down nature, forcing you to put away for the rainy day. So hopefully that helps you out a little bit. And lastly, I'm going to go to Mimi's. Mimi. There we go. And are you guys seeing my screen change too? Okay, Christine. I can't get to yours today, but I will I'll put that information in, and then next time when we do the third house next week, we'll take a look at your chart. Okay, so Mimi, this chart should be changing. So Mimi has an Aries rising. I kept it in whole sign. So we have a whole sign rising at 0 degrees, or 23 degrees of Aries is where the ascendant is, but all encompassed in this first house. That puts Taurus on your second house. So Taurus on the second house then becomes the natural ruler. The natural ruler of the second house is the ruler of your second house. So all of the things that we talk about with second house issues, possessions and money earning and all of that are a part of your experience, because what makes you feel settled, what makes you feel good about you, your I am, is the bold moves that you make that will satisfy your material needs, your ability to earn for yourself. No planets are in Taurus, so we have to look to Venus for you. And Venus in your chart is likely right around here. She's in Cancer. So Venus in Cancer here would play out in this, in a way to want to be protected, right? To have money in safe havens. And what safe havens might be to you is maybe the practical down-to-earth things, your property, your home, cash in the bank, and in safe funds, right? Funds that earn an income but aren't like risky. So there's the possibility that because your sun is in Leo, and Uranus in Leo, that it might behoove you at times to put some money into risky things, some risk, right? So that you can earn bigger returns. But for the most part, you are solid here in the financial house. You really need to have that practical nest egg feeling, and likely you're the earner. Now, just for you to watch right now, you have Uranus in your second house. He's retrograde at the moment, but this can show some fluctuations in the financial markets, and that fluctuation then also affecting you in your personal second house. So there may be, because the economy, I'm looking to see how old you are, 56. So that would put you at what, 65 maybe, or 64. So in that case, maybe your retirement funds being sort of up and down because of the nature of the economy right now. and not getting into fear around that second house fluctuation, right? You have Saturn on the other side, in the 8th house. So it's likely you made really good financial decisions and they will support you through this. So maybe for the time being for you, you don't get all crazy on the on the income side of things, or on the investment side of things. Just maybe letting things ride for a little bit, kind of watching for clues as to what happens next. For right now, the Mars bunch, Mars, Black Moon, Lilith, and Eris, they're in your 1st house. So that can be disruption happening in your own life. But think about this, in January, 14th of January, Mars will move into your 2nd house, and that then brings action to your earning. So maybe the things you're doing in the background now support what will become earning power later on. So I don't think you have anything to worry about. Just make sure that you have not risked too much financially because of the nature of Uranus in that 2nd house right now for you transiting. All right. So I know others of you want me to do that. I don't have the time this morning. I've got to watch the hour. So that is it for me. Let me take just a quick look over here and see what other people were saying. Thank you, Christine. I'm going to take it down. Asa, would you take down Christine's birth information for me and text that to me after we're done? Let's go down here to the end. Mimi, 64, and this is spot on. Recently started my SS process. Change in the, change in money. Not to be worried about, but I would just make sure, you know, the whole time that Uranus now is going to be in Taurus, probably for another 5.5 years or so, we're going to have to be very watchful financially because things are so up and down with Uranus, right? And the economy itself is a reflection, you can tell, because of the virus and how it affected our economy in such a powerful way. And I don't know that we've even recovered from that. And so safe harbor, I think, is a better option for the moment, but that doesn't mean forever. Laura says, that's awesome, Janet. Thank you. Bang on about real estate, past relationships, and self-employed. Needed this message today. Awesome. Thank you, Asa, for getting that for me. All right, guys, that is it for me today. Tomorrow is Thursday. We'll be doing some card readings. And please, whoever it was that sent me this angel deck, please let me know who you were so I could thank you appropriately. And tomorrow we'll play with these cards. I'll have to get them out and play with them and get my energy into them so we have accurate readings tomorrow. It's actually a really pretty deck. It's masculine too. And I kind of like that idea. Masculine, androgynous, almost even in some cases. Really kind of pretty. I like it. All right. That's it for me, guys. Take care. See you later.